Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world, talking about the team the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. Guys, we got a lot going on right now. It's kind of like the first wave of free agency is pretty much done. You're not going to see a lot of free agency moves right now, just a couple of filler moves here and there. Nothing that's going to move the needle. I don't think any free agency moves right now are going to change anyone's draft strategy moving forward or anything like that. I think that all that stuff is pretty much set. We're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight. We're going to rip through these topics, and anything that you guys have to talk about, we'll go ahead and talk about that as well. Everyone check in, man. Check in, like, comment. What's up, DeMarcus? What's up, baby? Kevin, what's up, dude? Henry, what's going on, guys? Come on, check in, guys. Check in. I want to see everyone checking in. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Geno Smith, what's going on with his contract situation following his trade. The 16th has passed. He got his $16 million roster bonus. So he already got paid that mofo. What's going on with his contract? It's kind of weird where we have all these other guys, all these defensive guys have not only their press conferences, but their interviews already, and nothing going on with Geno Smith. Just H. Cool. What's up, H? What's up, Sean? Well, how we doing tonight, fellas? How we doing, everybody? Solomon, what's up, baby? Hey, let's go, baby. It's time. This is a really important time right now. It's a very underrated time right now in the league year because these are where a lot of the sneaky moves get made. We're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to make sure everyone please like, comment, and subscribe. It's a great way to support this channel. It's absolutely free. And like I always say, it's the absolute bare minimum you can do to support this channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching, which, of course, I always do appreciate. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started here. We're just going to get humming. We're going to get humming, baby. It's 9:05. We're going to get this cracking. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. So I did the little kind of a Mickey Mouse little thumbnail for the live event earlier today. I just want to think a couple things to talk about, guys. South Dakota Raider, what's up, dude? I've never been to South. I've been to a lot of states. I've not been to South Dakota. I hear it's very nice. Is it warming up over there? Is it warming up over in South Dakota? Has spring sprung out there? It's hot. It was hot as hell here today in Long Beach. It was in the 80s already today. But all right, guys, we're gonna get started here. Now we're gonna talk first about Geno Smith and just some thoughts that I had on this whole situation. It is a little bit of a concern, I think, that we haven't heard any movement. When I came on last week and talked to you guys, I was fairly certain that something was going to get done because I felt like a demarcation point for the Geno Smith contract was the 16th of March, which was last week, because that's when Geno Smith was owed a $16 million roster bonus. And you can't really say, well, we want to give you a roster bonus, but we just gave you $16 million roster bonus from your previous contract. So let's just switch this one around because it doesn't work that way. That is an execution of an old contract that is still going on. Anything now is going to be off of a new contract moving forward. So I would have thought that Spytek and the boys would have got something done by the time the roster bonus was due. Apparently it didn't happen. There's a couple of different scenarios that as to why the contract hasn't been done. Scenario number one, they're just waiting for a second wave of free agency simply because they are looking into adding a few players that may be a little bit more of a higher ticket price. We got some more cap relief, and we redid Christian Wilkins deal. It's really interesting to me when you have like an old GM like Telesco did this deal last season with the Christian Wilkins, and then the new GM Spytek comes in and is like, dude, what is going on with this deal? We got to rework this thing. Like, this is not helping us whatsoever. So it's really interesting to see how a deal only 1 year old can get restructured because the new GM is like, what was the old GM even thinking about? So one thing that we need to take a look at here is just the timing of everything. For right now, I think it's not an urgent thing to get Geno Smith done, but it does raise some red flags. And this is the red flag that I think is raised the most. How does the presence of Geno Smith affect the draft strategy of the Raiders moving forward? Now, we're going to get into the draft strategy as far as like beyond quarterback later. We're going to talk about just Geno Smith and how it relates to Geno Smith. It may seem, well, I don't want to say it seems, but it's pointing to that it's not a foregone conclusion that the Raiders would not select a quarterback should one drop to them in the first round. If that were to happen, then the Raiders would be less likely to extend Geno Smith for a long period of time. They would probably do a shorter deal, maybe more guaranteed money, but something shorter because they're looking more for the future. If, let's say, they get kind of pushed out of the quarterback of the top two quarterbacks, right? If, let's say, if what all the mock drafts have Shador and Cam Ward going, within the top 3 picks. If that were to happen, I believe that a contract will be done very soon after the draft for a longer term deal. That could be some of the sticking point right now going on with the Geno Smith contract. Honestly, I don't think it's that big a deal because I think that all this stuff was discussed ahead of time before Geno was traded. And I think Geno's okay with it. I mean, he's not a spring chicken. I know a lot of these quarterbacks can play further into their careers, but I really do think that Geno Smith was brought in as a kind of a, yes, we can win with you now, and I'm confident that we can, but we also have to look to the future. And I want to use you to be a catalyst to kind of implement the culture for Pete Carroll as far as the players and the leaders go on the offensive side. So there's a couple of things happening here right now. I was one of the people that was very, I don't want to say convinced, but I had a strong conviction that Geno Smith was going to get signed earlier before that roster bonus. The issue with that is now that the roster bonus has been done, there's not really much they can do after the fact because of that roster. That's money out the window already. So I really do think that, I mean, there's a month until the draft. So I don't know that there's going to get much done with Geno Smith. I could be completely wrong and they'll have him signed up and locked up tomorrow. Who knows? I just have an inkling that it's curious. It's curious. It's very intriguing to me that if the deal hasn't been done by now, it probably won't get done till after the draft. They have Geno Smith. He's under contract, I believe, for 2 more seasons. If they don't do anything, or 1 more season, if they don't do anything, he's under contract. It's very hard for me to believe they would trade away a 3rd-round pick, which I believe a 3rd-round pick is still a premium pick. Call me crazy because of the way we've drafted, but other teams, they do see 3rd-round picks as a pretty premium pick. I think if it's not a quarterback that you're developing, a first 2-day picks, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round, they should start on your team. If not start, play significant minutes. So we're basically trading away a starter for Geno Smith to only have him play 1 year, maybe. I don't know, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me from that perspective, but I do understand the implications of the cap hit, $31 million cap hit this season off Geno Smith, the potential about an extension after the contract was executed for his roster bonus on March 16th. That was a pretty big one for me. I really do think that if it hasn't been done up until now, we're looking at a post-draft Geno Smith extension / press conference. Doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me as far as that goes, but ultimately I'm not the one in the driver's seat. And I really do feel like we're not out of the running to take a quarterback early. If we would have committed to, I would have felt that we would have committed to Geno Smith right when we got him because we traded such a good pick for him. But ultimately, I think that this front office is looking to double dip. They want to do both. They want to win now, plus set themselves up for the future. I don't know how much you're setting yourself up to win now by using a premium first round pick on a quarterback should one be there, and not helping your team get better with a player you can get from there. But it's just a little curious to me why that hasn't happened yet. What do we think here, guys? Anthony Provencio, Shadora Buster. Okay. Dixon Cider. That's an excellent name. We need to start hitting up leg day. I still think we're taking Shador if he falls to 6. Okay. Kushmob 420. Has anyone from the family seen Brady in any Raiders gear yet since he became part owner? Shit, you would think he would at least wear the colors. He wears the colors actually quite a bit. Even when he's doing, like when he did the Super Bowl, he was wearing a black suit with a silver tie. So he's wearing silver and black. I believe when he showed up, when everyone was clapping his name, I believe he was wearing Raider gear then. I think he's going to be a little bit more. Look, as much money as Tom Brady's made in his career, he's got a freaking 10-year, $350-something million contract. He's making $35 million a year to be an announcer. Part of that is he can't be involved in the day-to-day activities of a specific franchise. So I can understand him not being around, right? But as far as him wearing silver and black, I've seen him wear plenty of silver and black. Hugh G. Erection. You guys are hilarious. Hilarious. All right, guys. Right now, we're going to talk about what we're looking at 6. We talked a little bit about it with Geno, and just a curiosity. It's kind of really intriguing as to why the Raiders have not extended him, and the kind of door being left a little bit cracked open to a quarterback at 6. We're pretty much locked in at 6. I don't see us trading up to get anyone. It normally doesn't work out well to do so. I think in the last few years, only a couple of quarterbacks have worked out when you trade up to get them. Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs traded up probably like 12 spots to number 10, and the Bills actually traded up twice to get Josh Allen. Every time another quarterback they've been traded up for him, it really hasn't worked out that great. So it's better off to just kind of stay stagnant, stand pat, go with veterans, and maybe try to go with a guy that falls to you or in a later round. Now, even though the door is still left open, it's left open a little bit of a crack. All right, because trading for Geno Smith pretty much all but ensures we're not taking a quarterback at 6 overall, but it's not a for sure. There's still a possibility that can happen. I'm of the opinion that you select an elite player at 6. If you get a player that high, you should worry about getting the very best player you can, not about what position they play. If you're up that high to select in the draft, you have a lot of needs across your roster. I believe if you look at all these teams from 1 through 10, these teams all have significant needs throughout up and down the roster. So I don't know that we would look a gift horse in the mouth if one of these top prospects would drop to us. There's been a lot of mocks happening, and we're going to talk a little bit more about mock drafts in a little bit. But the things that the 3 names that I've seen the most mocked, and I did a video. I don't know if you guys saw it, on kind of like I was like 9 or 10 different mock drafts, and to see who like the insiders and the beat writers, what are they saying about who the Raiders are going to take at 6? And overwhelming majority, it was Ashton Genty, the running back from Boise State. I think it's a decent pick. I like him very much. I think he's got a kind of a mix of LaDainian Tomlinson, Emmitt Smith-ish style. He is shiftier, I believe, than Smith. And he catches the ball really well right away. I think Emmitt Smith caught the ball much better later in his career. And I think in that respect, he's much more of overall weapon, like a LaDainian Tomlinson was. They're very similar size. Um, Emmitt Smith was about 5'9", 215-ish, 220. Ashton Genty's about the same size. I think LaDainian Tomlinson was like 5'10", 215, something like that. So they're about the same size. I really do feel, because of the propensity of not only Pete Carroll to run the football, but also Chip Kelly loves to run the football. So I think there's two ways to look at this, okay? Two ways to look at this. You don't take a running back at 6 because there's so many other good running backs in the draft. That's one way to look at it. But you're passing up great for good. I don't know that anyone other than Ashton Genty has the ceiling to be a great running back. I don't think we've seen a prospect come into the league like this since Saquon Barkley. And I think the closest we've seen to that is probably Bijan Robinson. That's probably the closest we've seen. I think I like Jahmyr Gibbs very much, but I think he's more of he's not quite the runner. You can't strap a running attack onto his back and give him 20, 25 touches a game. That's just not who he is. Bijan Robinson can do that. I think that Ashton Genty is better than Bijan Robinson. I think he's very close. He's in that realm. I'm not going to say he's Saquon. I'm not going to say he's LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm not going to say that. But I think he has the capacity out of anyone in the draft at the running back position to be that and more. So I'm greedy. I'm very greedy when it comes to my players. I want to have great. I like great more than a lot of good. I think that wins more in the NFL. You have great players in positions to be great. Very good players are good throughout your roster, but you always need to have those great ones. And I think passing up on Ashton Genty because you can get another running back later would be passing up great for good. I don't know that Ted McMillan's going to be a great receiver. I think he has some limitations. And I think that he would be a good pick at 6. I don't know if he would be a great pick at 6. I don't know that he's going to be like a Malik Neighbors type of player that's going to come out and just take the league by storm and win one-on-one matchups left and right. I don't know that he's going to be that type of rookie. If you're going to take a guy that high, you want him to have that major impact right away. Ted McMillan is another name we're hearing a lot to help this Raider team out. The offense is, we all know the offense was just terrible. He started from the top with Luke Getsy, and it just kind of went all the way through Minshew and Aiden O'Connell and the terrible running attack, and Devontae Adams wanting out after 4 games, and it just wasn't ever clicking. My issue with where we were last season is we didn't take advantage of what we did best enough. And it became a little bit more in some of the middle games of the season. It became a little bit more predictable because it was pretty much Brock Bowers and that was it. You need to have another player on the outside who can win consistently. And I don't know that, although I do love Jacoby Myers' game, I don't know that he's that guy to do it consistently to be your number one. That's where Ted McMillan comes into play. I do feel there's a couple of other guys that we can get to that has similar games to Ted McMillan. I don't know that I would necessarily take him at 6. I wouldn't be mad at him at 6 because I know that he has a lot of great measurables, and I know that Chip Kelly's going to be able to take advantage of his skill set. But I still think out of those 2 picks, I think Ashton Genty would be the better pick. I understand there's a lot of people out there that feel like Ashton Genty would be kind of a waste of a pick if you don't fortify the offensive line. I feel we need another veteran on the offensive line, plus at least one, maybe two other picks to fortify this offensive line. It needs to be something that's going to be a, 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 a part of this team that's going to be relied on heavily. So I don't necessarily agree that's going to be a waste of a pick, but it is going to make it more difficult for Ashton Jeanty to show you what he can do without a very good line play. We need to get this line to be the best we can, because the better we get the line, the more we get exponentially from Ashton Jeanty. He's already going to give us a lot, even with the line that we have now. But the better we get that line, it's going to pay massive dividends in the run game with Ashton Jeanty going forward. Another name at 6 that we've talked about in the past is Mason Graham. Mason Graham is also mocked to come to the Raiders by a lot of different places. I feel there are, at the position groups, 4 elite players in this draft. 4 elite players. I believe that Travis Hunter is an elite corner. I believe Abdul Carter is an elite edge rusher. I believe Ashton Jeanty is an elite running back. And I believe Mason Graham is an elite defensive lineman. With that, if one of those 4 drop to us at 6, regardless of who it is, you have to take them. You need elite players on this team to win, regardless of position. I find it hard to believe that. I mean, look, if 2 quarterbacks go and there's 4 elite players and none of those are quarterbacks, there's going to be one left at least. Makes sense, right? Maybe one of the offensive linemen gets bumped up or whatever. We get more than one, our choice, right? I really do feel like we're going to pick one of these 4 elite guys. That's just my guess. That's what I would do if it was my choice. The reason why I like Mason Graham is because although he has a very similar game to Christian Wilkins, they do it in a little bit of a different way. Christian Wilkins is a little bit more of a brute. He's quick, he's fast, but he's a little bit more brutish with it. And although Mason Graham is as well, he's a little bit more of a knifer, gets in through. He uses his strength to like kind of beat double teams and slash through the line. Very difficult to block. I don't see a problem with making a good part of your team great. I don't see a problem with that. I believe that Mason Graham could be a much better player than, let's say, even like an Adam Butler right away. So you can have Adam Butler that can come in and spell some of these guys over the middle, in the middle of the defensive line. Mason Graham is an excellent player. He's an elite player at the position. So regardless of position, if I had my choice, I probably would go with Ashton Jeanty, just because the offense was just so bad last year, and we're so lacking in running back play, and a lot of the things that Ashton Jeanty, it's hard to pass on a LaDainian Tomlinson-ish player, and that's what I see when I see Ashton Jeanty. It's very hard to say we're not going to take that guy. All righty, what do we got here? Ernest Biaggi. Trading back seems more likely with Chip's 2 running backs from Ohio fitting in later. I agree that they would be a good fit. Again, I don't want to trade good, even very good, for great. I think we need great. And I would really like to get great with this pick. Someone great. Someone who has the potential to be great. I don't know that anyone other than those 4 guys have a high potential. Anyone in the draft can just go to the best situation and just ball out. All these guys are supreme athletes. They're like the top of the top. But if we're talking realistically here, there's probably only 4 guys that have the ability to be great. And those are the 4 guys that I mentioned. Although I do appreciate both Henderson and Judkins. I just don't think they're as good as Ashton Jeanty. Plain and simple, I don't think they're as good. And if I'm going to take a running back, I'm going to take the best running back because I know I need that guy. And I know he's going to be great for my team. But hell, there's been situations where there's a lot of teams, there's a lot of buzz. Let's just say this. Let's just go here. There's a lot of buzz going on right now about Jackson Dart. A lot of buzz. And it's not just from the teams that you might think. There's the Saints. There's the Jets. There's the Rams. There's quite a few teams out there. Man, my freaking mustache is like getting into my nose hairs and it's making me. No, I'm not coked out. Relax. I'm too mellow to be coked out right now. So Jackson Dart is getting tossed around as being a potential top 10 pick and a potential trade up candidate. Just very intriguing because the Jets are going with Justin Fields as their quarterback. And they're in line to have a young quarterback learn under Justin Fields. So the team that has the need for a quarterback the most outside of the top three is not the Raiders anymore. It's the Jets. That's the soonest one. So if two quarterbacks go in the top three picks, the team that needs to get jumped to get the Jackson Dart is the Jets. So a team has to jump the Jets to get to that spot to take a player, like if it's a Jackson Dart. Just so happens we're the team right in front of the Jets. So there is going to be a lot of phone call and a lot of traffic for that pick, I believe. Do we trade back? It's a possibility, but I wouldn't trade back so much that we're sacrificing great for volume. Now, I understand volume is good if you trade picks later in the rounds. Like last season, I understand. I love Brock Bowers, and I'm not saying we should have or shouldn't have, but it's a better scenario for us to trade back because you're not probably. I mean, the probability was very low to get a great player at 13, which we actually ended up doing because half the picks that went ahead of us were quarterbacks. That's the only reason why. So I really do feel like if we are going to trade back, I wouldn't go any further than like 12, which I think 12 is what, the Cowboys maybe? I wouldn't go any further. Jackson Dart could be, a target for the Cowboys. Look, man, hamstring injuries are not anything to play with. And Dak Prescott got slowed down a considerable amount after he broke his ankle. Then he tore his hamstring damn near off the bone. Like I don't know if it was a complete tear. It's a partial tear, but you're going to be able to see it. Like these don't think that this is what ended Ken Griffey Jr.'s career was tearing a hamstring. Like he was never the same player after that. So I understand that Dak has a lot of money coming to him, but if I'm the Cowboys, I'm getting it because Cooper Rush is gone. I don't know. Trey Lance was whatever over with the Cowboys. They might be a target to trade up and leapfrog the Jets to make sure they get the quarterback that they want. And if that's Jackson Dart, it's very probable that leapfrog can come to us. We still might be able to get Ashton Genty at 11 or 12. Wouldn't that be that would be like the sickest thing ever? We trade back and still get a great player. That's 2 years in a row we're getting a great player in the low double digits. Damn. I mean, I'd go for that. So look, there's a lot going on right now. So that's just a lot of what we're talking about as far as the draft goes. Look, it's impossible right now to tell you what's going to happen because you're not reading one person's mind. You're reading 32 minds. And those are just the decision makers, not all the stuff they're putting in to the decision makers' heads in order for them to make the decision. It's nuts, man. It's crazy. Let's see what we got going on over here. Kushmob 420, Plan C, O-line. If we're at 6, I don't know that we go O-line. Because there's either going to be a quarterback available or a great player available. So I think, quarterback is an option, Genty is an option, Mason Graham. I think the 3 guys that I have lined up, the T-Max, the Mason Grahams, the Genties, those are like A, B, and C. And again, depending on what happens with the quarterback situation, are they dead set against taking a quarterback early? Do they want to take one a little bit later? Again, it's impossible to tell what's happening right now. But this team for sure has a lot of needs. Okay, you don't win 4 games in a year and not have a ton of needs. So we have to see how we can fulfill these needs with the best players possible throughout this draft. What are some of these needs? We'll see. What I think is we're looking at definitely interior offensive line. We need one more. I understand that we have Jordan Meredith under contract, and he played very admirably last year. I understand that it was a little bit of a dip in production for Dylan Parham. We'll see if he can come back. I like Jackson Powers Johnson one more year after no concussion issues last year. He played just fine. He was a brute. He was a bully. He played like a Pete Carroll line plays. That Russell Okung line that they had over in Seattle, those guys were a bunch of bullies, dude. Those guys were a bunch of just hard-nosed bullies that wanted to make things happen. We might have to get some guys like that. And there's a couple guys that we talked about. If you want to talk about, look at my last video about the offensive line. There's a couple guys in the free agency that we can look at, but there's a lot of interior offensive linemen. People talk about how we can get a lot of running backs deep and late in this draft. There's a lot of interior offensive linemen that we can get that are just really nice for us, I think. Oh, we got a super chat here. Funky Hair Man, thank you very much for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you supporting. Al Davis, after you get great coaches, you get great players. This is us now. This year, just win, baby. Exactly, man. Look, don't trade great for 2 goods. The one great is better than 2 goods. It just works out that way. Because the impact a great player has on the game is infinitely better than 2 good players. Greatness, greatness, greatness. I say go for greatness. Interior offensive line is deep. Running back is deep. I don't know that. Look, and here's my difference, okay? Because I do like great linemen as well. But when you talk about taking an offensive lineman that high, if he's not like a bookend tackle that's going to be your tackle for 15 years, he's 1 of 5. How much better can one player make a group of 5? Right? But the running back is 1 of 1 on the field. How much better can that running back make that position with just 1 player? Quite a bit more. That's why I'm leaning towards that. Anthony Provencio, this O-line is already, man, you half drunk typing this, way better than Seattle's. I agree. Our offensive line is better than the line that especially on the interior. I think that a lot of people are sleeping on the Alex Kappa move. Alex Kappa is a very, very good player. He had injury concerns and injuries last season, very similar to Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert, before last season, dude, he had like 20 touchdowns the season before in 2023. Dude had like 20 touchdowns. It was freaking nuts. Last year, he had a fracture in his sternum. Dude, I had a fractured sternum. I couldn't even take a deep breath, let alone get hit every single day as a football player. So I can understand why he had a little bit of a dip in productivity. I think we can all understand that. I fractured my toe on my bed frame once. And man, I was WBB. I don't know if you guys know what that means. World's biggest baby, if we can use that term. But man, that's no joke, dude. I mean, getting a Raheem Mostert back with his speed, his receiving ability out of the backfield, goddamn. All right. So roster needs outside of quarterback. There's the running back we talked about, interior offensive line. I like having a very deep defensive line. That's just me. That was me before, like, the Eagles did it last season. I was always in I like to have a lot of options for my big guys. And here's why. I've talked about this before. Let me know if you've heard it before, just humor me. How many super athletic 6'4", 6'5", 320-pound people do you see just walking around every day in life? How many? When's the last time you saw just in the street a 6'4", 300+ pound guy who can, run and jump and move and is super strong? And when's the last time you saw one out in the wild, in just in life? Not very often. They're not very common. Now, how often have you seen like a 5'10" to 6 foot guy around 200 pounds that's like athletic? A lot more often. You see him at the gym all the time, right? I'm not talking about as athletic as it needs to be in the NFL, but they're just more of those guys. There's more of those people out there to get. You don't find these guys in the trenches at that size with all their measurables very often. So I feel you have to have a lot of resources to those lines, because you're looking at now and you're looking at the future to developing these guys to be your guys of the future. That's how you win in today's NFL. That's how you've always won in the NFL. You've always won with strong play up front. The guys on the outsides, yeah, that's great to have, but those guys can be had. The guys up front, those are the guys that we need to spend our money on. Love D-line. I love D-line in this draft. I love that we can get D-line. Like, we can get guys heavy, maybe not Mason Graham, but heavy contributors. Like, there's a guy, Tonka Hemingway. I think he's out of South Carolina. Tonka Hemingway is a beast, and the dude can be had probably in like the 5th, 6th round. The guy's an excellent player. There's a lot of guys like that. TJ Sanders, you can get him in the 3rd round, maybe even the 4th round. That guy's a stud. You can get these guys later, and they're still going to be heavy contributors to your defensive line. I really do feel that there's also a need on the outside here. Doesn't necessarily Chip Kelly. The good thing about Chip Kelly's offense is you don't necessarily have to have a quote-unquote number 1 receiver for the passing game to work, because of the way the running game works. Because of that, you can get away with some very good receivers maybe not having a number 1. So I really do feel like we can get a lot of this stuff done that we need to get done because of the depth in this draft. That makes sense, guys. I like offensive line early, but not too early, because one player doesn't affect a group of 5 as much as one player affects a group of 1 on the field, because normally there's only one running back on the field. So we get a big leap in talent in that running back position. It's going to be it's going to affect the outcome in the team much more than just a guy. I mean, good guys. I mean, because look, I think we need more than one running back. We need to at least 2 running backs, because we need the depth. I don't know how much Dylan Laube has. I had very high hopes for him. I thought he was a very good pass catcher out of the backfield. He just wasn't able to see the field. And if AP saw more in Dylan Laube, he would have played him more, because he was fighting for his job, and he didn't play him. He played special teams more off. He played I think the one snap he had on offense, and he fumbled. I see some people that are like, oh, we have Laube. Laube's going to be this. Laube's going to be that. Yeah, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but you have to also understand that AP wasn't in the business of like saving a guy for next season. He needed that's like us going out with a freaking 10. Like, we have to like pull out all the stops the first night. We don't know if it's going to be a return engagement, right? Same thing with AP. He needed to pull out all the stops and put the best players on the field because he didn't know if he was going to come back. So if Dylan Lobby was good enough to play, I think Dylan Lobby, his big chance to play would have been last season when the running back group wasn't all that great. Sam Demand, you are Demand. Thank you for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Who do you think is making the first pick, Spytek or Pete? I think ultimately Pete is giving his parameters, his game plan to Spytek, and it's going to be Spytek's decision on who to select. I really do think that. I think that there's going to be a lot of people in the room to make that decision. And I think ultimately it's going to be maybe not. I don't think Spytek is going to get what he wants, but I think I'm not. Let me reword that. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Spytek's decision is going to be final. I think he'll have the final say to sway the decision, but not necessarily be the final word. All right. What else we got going here? Look, these owner meetings coming up are going to be pretty crazy because actually, hang on. Let's talk about this real quick because I do want to talk about this. Anthony Prevencio, decent O linemen are hard to come by, and I don't think Parham has fully reached his potential yet. You know what potential is? It's French, which it means you haven't done shit yet. Look, I'm afraid that playing next to Jackson Powers Johnson exposed Dylan Parham for some of the glaring weaknesses he has in his game. When we saw Jackson Powers Johnson manhandling guys, right? And then we see Dylan Parham next to him getting manhandled, it just looks that much worse. Dylan Parham severely regressed last season, and he has to answer for that. He has to answer for that regression. Now, we can talk about the offensive line, and we get offensive coaching, the coordinator, the offensive line coach. We can talk about all that. But Jackson Powers Johnson seemed to do just fine with the same coaching. Okay? Let's not, think it's all coaching and he's fine. He's going to be okay. Dylan Parham has to fight. He has to fight if he wants to reach the field. Because guess what? The people who picked Dylan Parham, that's 2 regimes ago. That wasn't Telesco. That was a freaking JMD Ziegler thing. Okay? Nobody here has any ties to Dylan Parham. He's just a guy. He's a jag. He's just a guy. So he has to show that if he does have more potential in his game, he needs to learn. He needs to be able to anchor stronger at the point and needs to be more violent up front. If he can't do that, I don't think he's going to last in Chip Kelly, let alone a Pete Carroll offensive line. I'll tell you that right now. I want to, Prevencio. I want to see him compete as well. But he needs to be able to do a couple of things way better than he has already. That's my concern right now. Is like, dude, he's getting pushed back left and right, whereas Jackson Powers Johnson is doing the one pushing people back. That disparity just looks really bad when the guy next to you is kicking ass and you're getting your ass kicked. I think we could still be good up front as well. I really do think that. But the thing is, I want to make sure that we're doing a lot of things that we need to do to fortify these positions because, look, nothing would make me more incensed if we don't address the interior of the offensive line and we go out there and roll these same dudes out there and they get their freaking asses kicked. It's like, what did you expect to happen? You saw the tape. You saw 17 games of them getting their ass kicked. Why would you not fortify that part of your offense? That's the problem that I have. Like, that's why I was pretty upset. Now, I agreed but I changed my mind with the results. Like, Tom Telesco didn't use all of his cap last season. And he knew that the running game was going to be extremely important for AP and the offense. And you let Josh Jacobs walk. And you didn't replace him. You replaced him with a backup and another backup and a young player who hasn't shown he can take the Brock and run it effectively for a long period of time. Bro, that was a big mistake. Now we have to fill that role again. It's not easy, but it has to get done because piecing together these Tom, Dick, and Harrys, it's not going to make it happen. It's not going to work. The Eagles fell apart the season before without the strong running game because they became more predictable. They get a strong running back and things change, right? These owner meetings, I mean, what we have to take a look at here is, some of the rule changes and stuff like that. And you know what? Screw that. I'm not going to talk about the freaking owners meetings. Let's just keep talking about what we're talking about right now. Because look, Sincere McCormick, I like him very much. I like his heart. I like his ability to just be persistent and tenacious. He just can't stay healthy. And ultimately, I need you on the field. This is going to be his 4th season in the league, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy any season whatsoever. He always seems to get hurt. That's my problem with that. Zeus White, I had high hopes for Zeus White, man. He just did not show the ability. He didn't get any run after like week 5 or week 6. And it was glaring, his inability to run the football and his inability to shake and be shifty and make people miss. He was just trying to be a battering ram. And I don't know, man. I mean, the line didn't do him any favors, but goddamn. Zeus White was really a bummer to me. Amir Abdullah, I think, is a good complimentary back. I don't think he's a guy that you can put the entire running scheme on. Alex Madison, we traded Mostert for Madison. Madison went and signed with the Dolphins. He was okay, but he never was a starting running back. I think Mostert can be good in his limited role. I think we've seen that when Mostert runs the ball and has too many touches, he's just not somebody that can carry that load. He get injured a little bit too often. We need that extra running back position, man. Anthony Provencio sucks. He got hurt. Well, I mean, yeah, I get it, but he always gets hurt, bro. He needs to not be hurt. That's part of your ability, your availability. Would you rather get Genty first round or Judkins second round? I would rather get, if that's my choice without anything else, without any other information, I'd rather get Genty in the first. I think Genty is a much better player than Judkins. I think Judkins is a very good player. I don't think he's great. I think Genty is great. Kevin Lurker, thank you for the super chat, bud. Much appreciated. Watch tape of Lan Larison, UC Davis, late pick. Lan Larison, what position does he play? I'll take a peek. Tyson Hughes, thanks for checking in, bud. Do you think this draft we're rebuilding the offense for years to come, starting with our O-line? I don't think we start with the O-line. I think that we are going to fortify the offensive line. I think we still have some young pieces that can play really well. I think we get at least 1, maybe 2. We have 9 picks. I think 1 or 2 of them, because look, if we get 2 running backs and 2 offensive linemen, that's already half of our picks already. What else are we going to get? We need a quarterback. We need a receiver, a couple of, a linebacker, maybe a defensive lineman, maybe a corner. That's already 9 picks right there. Hell, let me just crack the code. Anyway, we need to make sure that I don't want a spray and pray approach, right? I want a very focused approach. So when we are done with this draft, we can say we fortified these positions. I don't want to do what happened last season and get a bunch of guys, dude, like with the Eichenbergs and the Decams and all. I like those guys, but they didn't move the needle any. There was a Milton out there that we could have had instead of taking Eichenberg. Why did we do that? Hell, I don't know. He didn't play last year. He's not really in the mix to play a lot this year. Why'd you do that? You knew you needed a quarterback. You didn't get one. I don't want to do that again. I want to be able to say we addressed this, even if it's one position group in this draft. I want to what position group did we fortify that we didn't already have a starting player? We already had Michael Mayer as our starting tight end. We already had him. Now we didn't know he was going to miss a ton of time, but we already had a starting tight end. Yeah, we got a better tight end, which is fine, but we didn't fortify a position that needed to be fortified. What else? We did it. There's still issues on offensive line. Defensive line, there was depth issues on defensive line. There was depth issues in the secondary. We had a worse coverage grade in the NFL. We had depth issues at linebacker. There was just basically 2 starting linebackers, and that was pretty much it. I want to address a group in this draft and not have to worry about, oh, we need another guy. I want to really nail down at least one group. If we take 2 running backs and 2 offensive linemen, we can fortify the running back room and the offensive line. Then we get one more guy in the interior of the defensive line. We can fortify the defensive line too, because they don't need much. It's not that hard, people. It's not that hard. But I don't want to just pick guys out of the air and go, this guy's going to be good, that guy's going to be good. No, I want it to be a plan to what we do and who we get. I just don't want to just get a bunch of guys. All right, what else we got here? What else we got? Anything else? All right, guys. Then we talked about a lot, man. Just to sum up what we talked about the Geno Smith situation, how that's going on, what's going to happen, how does that affect the draft that we haven't extended him yet. It leaves a little bit of the door cracked a little bit that we may still be in the market for a quarterback early in the draft. We talked about who we can take at 6. What are we saying? Why we're going to take a specific person? What's the best avenue to go to? Also, the needs that we have on this team besides quarterback. We got a lot of needs, man. We got needs in the offensive line. We have needs in running back. We have needs on the outside at receiver. We have need at linebacker in the secondary. We got a lot of needs, bros. We got a lot of needs, and we need to address them. I'm saying we fortify at least one position group. If we fortify one position group, it's one less that we have to fortify next season. You know what I'm saying? All righty. What else we got here? All right, guys. I think that's pretty much it for tonight. We're going to call it a night. Thank you very much for listening, guys. I really appreciate you. That's my time for tonight. I want to tell you guys one thing. I really appreciate you guys coming on and just showing up for the nation, man. It's Raiders versus the world. Raiders versus everybody else. Just like Raheem Mostert said, he didn't really grow up being a Raider fan, but he always kept an eye on the shield. He always kept an eye on it. That goes to show you they hate us because they ain't us. They all want to be part of the Raiders. Sam the Man, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Would it be dumber to draft a quarterback in the first or trade for a Milroe since just got Geno? What would you rather do? What would RJ do? I don't know what RJ would do, but I know what I would do. I would take one of those 4 elite players at 6, and I would try to fortify quarterback later. If Milroe is there in the second, or maybe if you can feel you can get him in the third, I would do that and have him sit. I feel Milroe was severely undercoached in college. I feel that he was coached to do more of what he already knew how to do better. He wasn't really progressed as a quarterback, and it's not all his fault. The offense he was in was more of a run and gun type of offense where he still used his legs more than anything else. They really didn't teach him how to run through progressions, how to throw the intermediate passes. It was just short dump offs and deep passes. They really didn't. And I understand why you want to get him to do his best because you want to win games, but they didn't do the favors to Jalen Milroe's game at Alabama by trying to progress him past where he was as a player. They progressed him as an athlete, but not quite pretty much as a player. If we can get him maybe in the second or hope maybe the third round, I would be that would an excellent pickup for us to be able to kind of bring him along slowly and have that soft handoff later from Geno Smith to a Jalen Milroe. Milton. Trade for a Milton since you got Geno. I would trade for Milton too. Milton would be. I wouldn't trade anything more than like a fourth or a fifth for Milton, just because. I mean, he hasn't shown a ton. Milton's a good player. I wanted Milton last season, but unfortunately, Telesco thought we needed Tommy Eichenberg instead. But Milton's a very good player. I like him very much. I think that it's a little bit concerning that he wasn't able to really be a starter until, he was in Michigan. He wasn't the starter at Michigan. He went to Tennessee. Hendon Hooker started ahead of him at 10. He couldn't beat out Hendon Hooker. He only got on the field because Hendon Hooker got hurt. Milton's a good player, but he just needs a lot. I think Milton needs more progressing in as a passer, really, than Milroe. I think Milroe is a better player than Milton, I believe. Milroe in the 6th, no, dude. Milroe, if he's there in the 3rd, it'd be I think Milroe is better than Milton. I think Milton has a much stronger arm, but I think Milroe's arm is still very, very, very good. I think as a quarterback and the potential moving forward, I think Milroe is much more athletic. So if you're going to hang your hat on something, if you're not an elite passer and you're gonna hang your hat on something else, Milroe is a better athlete than Milton, and I think that Milton has played in a much more of a pro style, not really pro style, but more of a passing offense than Milroe was in. And Milton still looks the way he looks. I think Milroe would be a much better prospect in a year or two. All right, guys, that's my time for tonight. I really appreciate you guys. Go ahead, if you haven't done it already, please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. It's a great way to support this channel. It's absolutely free, and it's the bare minimum you can do to support besides doing absolutely nothing. Easy for me to say, absolutely nothing, and just watching the video, which I always still appreciate. All right, guys, until next time, everybody, peace.